Oh, wherever that is. So, like from the start, yeah, it was hiding.
Okay. I'm excited to share this topic because this is a topic that's important in Zen Buddhism and also Daoism. I've thought about these concepts for a long time, but haven't really thought through. In preparing a presentation, it kind of made me to have to kind of do more research and to put it in a way that makes sense. So I will start from this page that will make sense for all of us, I think. So the three symbols, you see Songya, Songyata, and Dao, and Wu Wei. So we'll start from Songya. What does Songya mean? It means 0. And it really means number 0. And the Songyata is a Zen Buddhist concept. And when it's translated into English, we usually translate it as emptiness or void. But probably there's some kind of distance between its original text to translation in English. And you can see the symbol that makes sense. The 0 is a 0. And Songyata is emptiness. And Dao and Wu Wei, Dao, this is a symbol of Daoism. I've also talked about Daoism before. You see yin and yang. Inside the yin, there's a circle of yang, and inside yang, there's a circle of yin. And the concept of Wu Wei, I'll explain a little bit later on. So I think I'll start with Songyata. And my first question is, what would world be without 0? Today we're using computer every day. There will be no binary system, right? In computer science, we have 0, 1, 0, 1. So without 0, it's hard to think how we can develop high level of math and computer science. No calculus. So this concept of 0 is very important. And many years ago, I happened to come across a book called Finding 0. And it made me think the importance of 0 and then how it's related to Zen Buddhism. So before this, now we call, most likely we call this number 0, 1, 2, 3. When we use in math, we call Arabic numbers. But actually it's originated in India. So sometimes we call it Hindu Arabic numbers. Before the discovery or invention of 0, in the West, Greeks and Romans, what kind of numerals were they using? As you can see, like in a clock, old clock, we have 1, 5b, x, 10, L, 50, 100, C, D is 500, M, 1000. Is there 0 there? There's no 0, okay? So without 0, it's hard to do high-level math. And also, what about minus? What about -1, -10? How do we conceptualize this idea of 0 or minus? So our next question is when and how was 0 invented? Now, in math, some of you might have heard the kind of discussion, debate about are numbers discovered or invented? So I will use it interchangeably. I don't really have an answer. Everyone, you can think about it. An interesting question to think about. So in Sanskrit, 0 is called Sonya. A short history of this number 0. I have this book at the end of this slides, Finding 0, a Mathematician's Odyssey to Uncover the Origin of Numbers by Amir Azel. You can find a book from Amazon or the library. It's a very interesting book. So a lot of my ideas, initial ideas, were from this book. And then I did some additional research. So according to this author, he is a mathematician, and he was intrigued about this 0. And he not only did research, he actually went to different parts of the world to try to find archaeological evidence of the number 0. And his odyssey took him to different parts of the world. I think by the end, he found this archaeological records, like carved on stone, probably like in Nepal or Angkor Wat, Cambodia. They were kind of Hindu civilization, part of Hindu civilization. So it was now the consensus of 0 was first discovered in ancient India by 3rd or 4th century. And they invented the decimal system. So now we have a 0. Before, many cultures have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but there's no 0. So another source of origin as ancient Mesopotamia, 4th AD. They have very high level of astronomy and a calendar. And by 9th century, Islamic civilization were highly developed, and the traders who through the trading, they learned about this 0 and math. The consensus of research is that Islamic traders, they learned this number system, and then they started to use and integrate it into Arabic numbers. And in Europe, they didn't use this number until much later. But the first person who did here, Fibonacci introduced Hindu-Arabic numbers in 1202 and didn't really catch on in math or science until 15th century. there is a resistance in Europe to use the number 0 because of philosophical and religious reasons of not want to acknowledge the number 0 without anything. If God is omnipotent, omniscience, then the number 0 just doesn't fit into the map. Whereas in India, this meditation and embracing the emptiness and void has a long tradition. So now I'm going to talk about cultural and philosophical influences or origins. So why did Indians, I would rather say discover than discovered 0 in the first place? Because when we do meditation, we embrace, for lack of better words, emptiness or void, right? So we don't try to think hard to solve a problem in meditation. Some people might, but that's not the common practice of meditation, is try not to think, which is not that easy. So in Hinduism, there's a cultural openness to nothingness and void. In Buddhism, yoga practices, emptiness and impermanent nature of essence, intrinsic essence. When we talk about nothingness and void, it doesn't necessarily mean there's a nothing, then there's nothingness. It's not nihilistic, nihilism. Nihilistic is like nothing matters. But here, the conceptual emptiness has 2 connotations. One connotation is interdependence. Another connectedness. Another connotation is impermanence. So there's just say our beings, our human beings. We philosophically speaking, we exist because we are interconnected with one another. And we also, our essence is not permanent, unchanging. Every being will change, born, growth, death. So this emptiness and void is not nothingness with nothing, but rather it points to, I think it points to 3 things. One is interconnectedness, another is impermanent, another is infinite potential. You probably have heard the story of a cup, filling a cup with water, with tea. If the cup is full, you cannot pour in anything more. When a cup is empty, you can put in. And when we are too full of ourselves and think we know everything, we cannot put in different ideas, point of views, because we're so sure about one way of thinking. So being empty is a it points to the potential of putting in more information. Okay, so that's why our here, Dallas Meditation Center is also called intervene, Tinahan and intervene, the order of intervene, because we recognize we're all connected with one another. Without interconnectedness, we don't have an essence. And now more about Samyata. So I've kind of already touched upon all these main points: emptiness, voidness of essence, interdependent nature, impermanent essence. And that leads to not self or non-self. Absence of a permanent self. I have another slide that will give you more explanation of why, what is non-self. Basically, I can make another analogy that I learned. A lot of things in the universe, including air, water, the air we breathe, the water we use every day, is kind of recycled billions of years. It's not really created anew. So it's connected by time and by space. We are breathing the same air that Buddha probably has breathed how many, 2,500 years ago. Confucius, Plato, Aristotle, all these great thinkers have breathed, and the water we are consuming also being recycled. So there's like interconnectedness in space and time, scientifically proven. When we do meditation, we want to have clarity of the interconnectedness, the impermanent nature of existence. The impermanent nature of things sometimes can sound kind of disappointing, but it can also sound very helpful. If it's impermanent, things always change, and we have an opportunity to learn, to transform, and to change what is not desirable to be more desirable. If things stay the same, you get stuck. But we always have an opportunity to transform the things that we think not desirable and to make it more desirable. The last point here is skillful means to disentangle oneself from the delusion and to lead to enlightenment or awakening. From this point of view, we believe that most of us have some form of delusion that we think we know, we think our point of views are correct. But in reality, things are very complicated. We probably know one side of the story, not necessarily every side of the story, the interconnectedness, and things do change in space and time that we may not really get a full picture. So here is what we always say, recite. We just help us to say, let us transcend boundaries of delusive self, liberating ourselves from the superiority complex, inferiority complex, and equality complex. Sometimes it still kind of strikes me. Why should we transcend all these boundaries, including the equality complex? If we transcend all these complexes, what do we have left? Probably go back to non-self. And we talk about that we are aware the happiness and sufferings of all people, and we also we are one with those caught in situations of oppression, and we are also one with the oppressors. It is easier to be said than to be done, right? Can we always identify ourselves with those people who are oppressed or the oppressors? But if we do think and practice interbeing, it is something that we keep on working. Now, I'll start with the Daoism, Wu, and Wu Wei. In one of my talks, I mentioned Zen Buddhism actually is influenced by Daoism. When Buddhism came from Hinduism, India, there are many different schools of Buddhism and Hinduism. But when it's introduced to East Asia, there's a Chinese monk by the name Xuan, and he went to India in 5th century, and he translated a lot of Buddhist texts. And then when they were introduced to China, the Chinese have to use their language, their existing religion terminology to translate Sanskrit. So the religion that China the only indigenous religion in China is Daoism. So a lot of Taoist terminologies we use to translate Buddhism. And then Zen Buddhism actually is a natural development between Taoism and Buddhism. Although because of revolutions and things happening in China, Zen Buddhism were not practiced as much as that in Japan. So now most people here think about Zen Buddhism more from Japan than from China. But actually Zen Buddhism were a combination started in China and translated into Japan and Vietnam. And some of the texts, including Heart Sutra, were most probably started by Chinese monk and then translated back to Sanskrit, and Japanese and Vietnamese and different languages. So last time Bobby also talked about Daoism. So a lot of people who like to read Buddhism, they also have enjoy reading Daoism because there is kind of connection. So now this concept of you probably have heard Wu Wei. In Chinese, there's this concept you and Wu. You is to have, Wu is not having. In English, we don't have a word, just one word saying not having. So it's more like negating have. Have, not have. And most people think not have is not desirable. Having is more desirable, right? But on the other hand, we do, well, even the other word is being or non-being, to be or not to be. So in Chinese, there's one character, you, and another character, wu, like yin and yang. They don't necessarily think one is more desirable or one is not desirable. So I'll just demonstrate you and a wu. So I have a candy here. So if I have a candy here and I don't have anything, so this will be, what's the character to say? Yo, and when do you use this? It's wu, yo and wu. So it's more, because the language is such that in Chinese, and I think in Sanskrit, when we say voidness or not having, non-action, it just sounds like yin and yang. It doesn't sound not desirable. But in English, most people will have a pre-existing conception of void, emptiness, not non-self, not having, is slightly negative. There's a linguist called Wolf-Sapir, and the Wolf-Sapir hypothesis that says there's a language influence or condition the way we think. And to what extent the kind of language that we have condition or influence the way we think. So this wu in Chinese is just kind of objective word. It's not negative. So I give you an example of using this wu. Wu hua guo. Wu means not having. Hua means flowers. Guo means fruit. If you know about fig and plants, fig, most fruits you see flowers, and then after flower you have the fruit. But fig is kind of fruit, you don't see the flower first. Maybe there's flower, but you don't see, so you can check. And then wireless is called 无线电. So 无 is without, 线 it means line, 电 means electricity. So wireless literally is without a line connecting, but there's electricity. And in Dao De Jing, there is this quotation: all things in the world are born from existence, that's born from you, and existence is born from non-existence. So in Dao De Jing, in Daoism, they don't talk about God creates the world. They say, you see what you have now exist, but actually existence started from nothingness. So Dao means the way the world, the rules of the natural world. So Wu Wei, when it is translated into English, it's hard to be accurate. So one translating is non-action. Non-action. So what does non-action mean? A better translation is effortless action. Like, say you ride a bicycle. In the beginning, you make effort how to ride a bicycle. And once you know how to ride bicycle or drive a car, it's effortless. So it's not non-action. If you don't do anything, the bicycle, the car will not go. You have to do something, but you do it in such a way that you don't have to think much. So it's a better translation probably is effortless action. In now psychology, there's a word flow. If you do something, a skill that you have learned really well, then it just flows. That's what Wu Wei is. So there's this quotation that says Wu Wei are Wu Bu Wei. Do nothing and nothing is left undone. Like the sun shines upon all of us. Does the sun make an effort to shine upon us, to make the plants grow, to make daylight appear? So to the ancient Chinese philosophers, and they say the sun shines as they are not really trying to do something, but nothing is left and it shines every corner. The water runs to every corner, and it doesn't try work hard to be beneficial. It is just being beneficial itself. So if we cultivate ourselves, we don't have to think, I need to be nice. You're just a nice person and you will be nice everywhere. That's what is this Wu Wei is. And that's also the other thing is skillfulness, that you have to practice as being skillful and you're nice, and you don't have to trying to be nice and you're still nice. So next, I like to read original text, one from Heart Sutra, that's most popular short Buddhist text in East Asian tradition. Let's look at the text and see if it makes sense. The Bodhisattva of compassion, when he meditated deeply, saw the emptiness of all five skandhas. So we usually translate as five aggregates. What are the five aggregates? The five aggregates: form, perception, feeling, consciousness. That's one more. There's one more. So actually, in the text, it kind of talks about these five aggregates. That the form is more like the physical world, our physical body, and then the way that we understand the world, understand each other. We have perception, consciousness, feelings, mental formations.
You have a choice.
Yeah, probably. So So these are the these are what we usually call the aggregates that can cause us some suffering. But then this text keeps on telling us form is no other than emptiness. Emptiness is no other than form. Form is only emptiness. Emptiness is only form. Feeling, thought, and choices, consciousness itself are all the same as this. All things are by nature void. They are not be born or destroyed, nor are they stained or pure, nor do they wax and wane. Does it make sense? This, going back, when we talk about emptiness, there are three things. What are three things that are important, implied in emptiness? There's interconnectedness, there is impermanence, and there's potential. So it's not like nothingness. So these are the three pictures I took when I visited a Taoist mountain in China about 10 years ago. Although China is officially atheist country, but there are a lot of people practicing. They don't necessarily go to church or temples every day or every week, but when they go to a mountain, when they see temples, usually built in a mountain for hundreds of years, they will pray. And what is interesting about one of these pictures is there's a character in red. What do you think this character is? This character is heart, like heart sutra, heart. So in a way, the character of heart, can you see it kind of look like a heart? Kind of look like a heart. So instead of a human God figure, the heart character itself is a symbol. I probably wouldn't say worship, and it's a character for people to be pious, to use your heart to make wishes. So it's a very nice word. So here is a text from Daoism. So this Daoism sometimes is DAO, sometimes TAO. It depends on the phonetic. The Chinese doesn't read phonetics, they read characters. Phonetics sometimes depending on who transcribed it. So these are some interesting paragraphs. All under heaven recognize beauty as beauty only because there's ugliness. All recognize good as good because there's evil. So there's no absolute beauty or ugliness. If we don't have one side, if we don't have ugliness, then beauty means nothing, right? And good and evil, we have something not desirable, then we have something desirable. So the next one, being, is also you, remember, and non-being is wu. They complement each other. Difficulty and ease are relative to each other. Long and short, high and low, front and back. And music and sound harmonize each other. So if that's why in Taoist symbol, there's yin and yang. We're not saying one is desirable, another is not desirable. They are just like we have coins of two sides. You have two sides. You have the sun, you have the moon. You cannot say the sun is more desirable than the moon. We have man and a woman. You cannot say one is more desirable than the other. They just complement each other as anything else. If we don't have one thing, we just don't have the other side. So that's the interconnectedness, right? Thus, the sage acts without effort, Wu Wei, and the teachers without words. Sun shines everywhere without discrimination. Myriad things grow silently, flourishing without being possessive, and achieving without making claims. That is Wu Wei. Thus, nothing gets lost when nothing is claimed. If you do a good deed, you want to be rewarded. If you don't get rewarded, you might feel disappointed. But if you don't expect to be rewarded, then nothing gets lost and you wouldn't be disappointed. If you get rewarded, there will be pleasant surprise. Okay, so actually, I'm not. Okay, who am I? Wu and a Wu and non-self. So, who am I? Wu, Wu. Wu, what does Wu mean? Wu means not having, don't have. Wo means I. So Wu Wo means non-self. You having, Wu Wo not having. So when we say who am I, usually we say name, age, physical body, occupation, relationship. And that's most people think that's who I am. But if we go to think about Wu Wo, non-self, name is accidental. I can be Jian, I can be Susan, I can be Moon, June, July, any name, right? It's accidental. Age is impermanent. This year, I'm this age, next year, my age changes, right? Physical body is also impermanent. Occupation can be also impermanent. We have probably changed jobs. Most of us have changed jobs at least 3 times. So job doesn't define you. Name doesn't define you. Age doesn't define you. Relationship can be impermanent. If it's permanent, you are lucky. But a lot of relationships are not permanent and also interrelated, right? So what's the essence of I? What's the essence of I? So now this is the end of my talk and the set of questions. And how much time we have? Probably 10 minutes for, do we have 10 minutes for questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we can open up for questions. And these are kind of questions. You can say, use these questions as guides or anything else that come to mind relating to this topic.
Then going in the book Finding Zero, does the author mention the Maya in Mesoamerica?
I don't remember he mentioned Maya.
Okay.
I think most researchers, they talk about Mesopotamia, maybe Babylonian, but most ancient discovery of zero is Hindu.
Then China.
Junpao again. Thank you so much for this wonderful talk. My question is, as I was studying these concepts, I was realizing some of the Korean culture and the culture I experienced in America's difference is that some of these concepts seems to be kind of embedded in collective consciousness of East Asians. I was wondering if you have any take on your observations of Chinese culture and American culture and how these concepts might relate to that. It's kind of open-ended. You can take it however you like.
I think one of the concepts that I noticed that most Americans think, especially coming from Christianity, Catholicism, they think in terms of good and evil. And evil is really bad. So if people have not been exposed to Daoism and yin and yang symbol, their first impression will be like the lightness, the bright lightness is good, the dark is bad. But I think in East Asian traditions, they are less likely to think what we call like this dualistic thinking, like one is necessarily bad, one is necessarily good. Like especially in Daoism and Zen Buddhism, as we read in Taoist text, like beauty and ugliness. Of course, like most people would rather to choose beauty than ugliness. But if you think like philosophically, without ugliness, is there beauty? It's easier, I think, for East Asians to transcend the dualistic thinking than Westerners. That's my observation, but it doesn't mean every East Asians think this way. It's also kind of training, because as children brought up, parents probably would say, don't do bad things. So it's very natural to see good and bad and to aspire to be. It's probably not easy to transcend the dualistic thinking. But if the culture has kind of words and philosophical perspective already there, it's kind of a little bit easier to transcend dualism.
Cornell bowing in, that's kind of, I think, related or similar thinking, like what Jun's question was. And I think of something you talked about, even in our languages, there are some concepts that don't exist or do exist, which can affect what generations of philosophy might revolve around. There's something that doesn't even exist in the language. And so something I'm wondering, like for us here, our language might derive from, Western European languages, and where other languages like in the East might derive from somewhere else. And I wonder about, like, we look at places like the Philippines, Vietnam, that their modern culture is very impacted by Western Europe, and their language has changed as well. And I wonder, does that change, philosophy between generations as well,
Yeah, this is very complex. Actually, I think it cannot emphasize too much because there is some impact of language. And there's a merit of learning second language. I think the best country as an example will be Singapore. Singapore is totally bilingual, actually trilingual, national language, English, Chinese, and Malay. But Malay is not really as like popularly used, but government wants to honor the native people, so make it as common. But most people in Singapore speak both Chinese and English as national languages, and it's highly, as you know, it's politically, economically very successful country, but it's very small.
Helen Diana. What would be some ways to incorporate like more Wu Wei in our personal life? Like, what would you recommend?
That's
I guess
Could you
Very
repeat the
good
question for us, Jian?
how do we incorporate Wu Wei in our personal lives? I think there are two aspects. One is skillful, like you have to develop some skills. Two is like the easier way to say is non-attachment. Like say I was expecting a friend to call me to expect I accomplished some things, but a friend didn't call or I didn't accomplish, then I feel bad because my expectation. But if you know the Wu Wei principle, you kind of learn to separate your attachment. You cannot, you should not like attach your preconceived notions that you want this to happen. This didn't happen. You get so disappointed. You shouldn't get so disappointed because things are impermanent and also interrelated. You cannot control other people, how they react. You cannot expect things to turn your way. But in order to be at the level that you can like effortless, like saying, play a musical instrument, drawing, you have to, even like bicycle swimming, you have to have a level of skillfulness. And once you have a level of skillfulness, then it becomes effortlessly, you can do things effortlessly, right? So I'm just suggesting that one is like practice. That's why we say we need to practice meditation, mindfulness, practice, and then non-attachment and knowing things are impermanent and interrelated, and you cannot force things to happen. If they don't happen, let it go. Okay, I think we only have 5 minutes left. Joe has an announcement.
Jian?
Thank you so